Hello, everyone. Today's horror story is called The Mirror That Remembers You. As always, be sure to like and share this video with your friends for more scary stories. The year was 1987, and I was living in a small village in England. I worked in a shop in the village that sold antiques and bric-a-brac. One day, we got a delivery of old furniture from an old folks' home that was closing down. The furniture was very cheap, and most of it was damaged. But one item stood out. It was a large antique mirror that looked like it had come straight out of a haunted house movie. It was very ornate and beautifully crafted, but it was also very dirty. And when we tried to clean it, we couldn't get the grime off the glass. We ended up having to take it outside and hose it down with water from the shop's outdoor tap. When we did this, though, we made a terrible mistake. We broke the seal on the mirror. When I say that, I mean that once the grime had been washed away from the glass, the mirror seemed to remember everything that had happened in the room where it had hung for all those years. Every single conversation, every single argument, every single kiss, every single death had been imprinted onto the glass and was seared into my mind forever. To make matters worse, the faces of people who were no longer alive were still visible. They would appear and disappear as I moved around the shop, haunting me at every turn. I knew that the mirror had to go. It was giving me the creeps. So I put it back in the van and took it to the tip. But that's when things started to get really bad. At first, it was just a feeling, a sensation that someone was watching me. Then I started to see things. At night, when I was trying to sleep, I would see the reflection of the old man who had died in the room where the mirror had hung. He would stand in the corner of the room and stare at me, his eyes boring into mine. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and see my bedroom wall was covered in pictures of the old man. I would rub my eyes and try to shake off the images, but they were still there. They would be burned into my eyelids and seared into my brain. It was like the mirror had imprinted itself onto my mind, and now I was seeing the reflections of the people it had trapped inside of it. At first, it was just the old man. But then, others started to appear. A young girl with a blank expression on her face. She looked like she had died in the 1800s. Her hair was long and stringy, and her dress was torn and dirty. A woman in a Victorian nightgown, her skin pale and her eyes wide with terror. And a little boy holding a rusty knife, his face twisted into a demonic grin. These are the ones I remember clearly. But there were many others. Too many others. I knew that the mirror had to be destroyed, so I took it into the forest near my house and smashed it with a hammer. But the images still remained. They were burned into my brain and I could see them everywhere. The girl with the blank face appeared in the trees, her arms outstretched towards me. The woman in the nightgown seemed to be everywhere, hiding in the shadows, watching me. And the little boy with the knife was always close behind me, his grin wider than I thought humanly possible. I ran from the forest, desperate to escape the images that were chasing me, but they followed me all the way home. Once inside, I locked the door and tried to hide under the covers, but I couldn't escape the memories. They were imprinted on my mind. I screamed and cried, begging for help, but no one came. I was alone in my nightmare. Days turned into weeks, and the images never stopped haunting me. I couldn't sleep or eat. I couldn't think or concentrate. All I could do was scream and cry and beg for the pain to stop. I tried to wash the memories away, to scrub them out of my brain, but it was no use. They were burned in, and there was no escaping them. One night, I woke up from a horrible nightmare. I could feel the sweat dripping down my face, and I could hear my own screams echoing in my ears. As I sat up in bed, I saw the little boy standing in the corner of the room. He was holding a rusty knife, and he had a wide grin on his face. I screamed, but he didn't seem to hear me. He just kept grinning. Then he started to walk towards me. I tried to get away, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear. The boy walked closer and closer until he was right next to me. He raised the knife and brought it down towards me. I closed my eyes and waited for the pain, but it never came. When I opened my eyes again, the boy was gone. The only thing that remained was the knife. It was lying on the bed, glistening in the moonlight. I reached out and touched it. It was cold and hard and real. I got out of bed and went to the window. Outside, the moon was full and bright. It was the same moon that had been shining when I found the mirror. I looked at the knife in my hand and I knew what I had to do. I walked out into the night and threw the knife into the forest. Then I ran as fast as I could, not stopping until I reached the safety of my home. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed. For the first time in weeks, I didn't see any images. There was nothing in the mirror. I went downstairs and poured myself a cup of tea. Suddenly, I heard a knock at the door. I went to answer it, and I saw a young girl standing on my doorstep. She was holding a bouquet of flowers, and she had a sweet smile on her face. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Do you live around here?" "I used to," she said, "but I don't remember where." She looked at the flowers in her hands. "These are beautiful, aren't they?" she said. "Yes," I replied. "They are." "I picked them myself," she said. "I wanted to give them to you because you reminded me of my mother." I thanked her and closed the door. As I leaned against the door, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The images were gone, and the nightmares had stopped. Maybe I had finally escaped the mirror. But then I turned around and saw the girl standing in the living room. She was smiling at me and holding out the bouquet of flowers. "What's your name?" I asked. "I don't remember," she said, "but you can call me Mirror." I hope you enjoyed today's horror story. If you did, please be sure to like and share this video with your friends. Also, let me know in the comments below if you have ever seen something similar to this in real life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.